I'm here with you today from Einstein's workshop. My name is Erica, and today we're going to be making muffins, and not just any kind of muffins. We're going to be making mug muffins. We're making them in a mug in a microwave. So a little bit smaller scale. Usually you see muffins made in big tins, and you put them in the big hot oven, and you got 2 dozen when you're done. We're just going to make one muffin in a mug in a microwave. And I think you'll see that there's actually a lot of STEM in cooking. So the only ingredients you're going to need today are flour. I need some milk, baking soda, a little bit of vanilla extract, some butter, and some white sugar. So let's get started. We'll go into a little bit more depth and talk about what all of these ingredients do also as we're cooking. So first thing that we're going to start off with is the butter. So you can get butter in either stick form or tub form. You can also buy it in whole chunks too, but I personally like the stick form the best, and the reason why is because it has this really helpful, so you can see that up near the camera, really helpful markings in here, and that's going to tell you how much you need. It's actually a measurement system, so each one of these little things here, up to a line, is 1 tablespoon. It's equivalent to this guy right here. We'll be using him a lot too. But it's much easier, so instead of having to scoop the butter around and kind of scoop it in here, we can actually just grab a knife, just a regular butter knife, and measure 1 tablespoon, 2 tablespoons. We're going to be using 2 tablespoons. And cut right on that line. There we go. That's 2 tablespoons right there already marked out for you, so super easy. Go ahead and take the paper off of that, and you're going to need a microwavable mug. Really important that it's safe for the microwave. And we're going to dump that butter right in there. Now, it's really hard to mix a chunk of butter in with a bunch of other ingredients, so the first thing we're going to do is melt it. I actually have a microwave right next to me. Guys, make sure that you have some parents helping you out with this, especially towards the end. We're going to be heating it up for a little while, so it's going to get pretty hot. For now, I want you to only put it in for maybe about 15 seconds. And the reason why is we don't want to boil the butter. We don't want to put it in there and have it turn to liquid right away. As soon as you boil an ingredient, it actually changes the chemistry a little bit. We want to make sure that that doesn't happen, so we just want it to melt. So we're going to do about 15-20 seconds here. All right. You take it out, you can see it's kind of melty on the bottom there, but not on the top. It's pretty soft though. So I can mix it around a little bit, kind of mix it around a little bit, and it does need some more time. There we go. Alright, and I'm going to put it back in the microwave. Just do another 15-20 seconds or so. Alright. Now you can see it's a little bit more difficult to see. It's mostly melted, but there's some chunks in there too. So go ahead and just stir that up. And actually the heat from all that melted butter is going to melt those chunks as well. So just stir it up for a little bit. You will notice that those chunks will actually completely disappear, which is good. That means we haven't overheated it, but the butter is nice and melted. The butter is what's going to make your muffin nice and kind of moist. It's going to hold everything together, and it really keeps that moisture in there as it cooks. So the next ingredient that we're going to do is some sugar. My tip for measuring any of our dry ingredients, use a paper towel. And the reason why is because I don't know about you, but I make a mess when I tend to measure things. So we're going to go ahead and do it over a paper towel so we're not making a mess. And you're also going to need something to level it with. So what I mean by that is if I take a scoop, we're going to need 2 tablespoons, right? So this is the tablespoon guy. We were talking about him earlier. Take a scoop right here. If I just dump that right into my mug, that's way more than a tablespoon. A tablespoon only comes up to the very edge. So I take something flat. I like to use a chopstick because my chopsticks are flat. A lot of people like to use the blunt end of a butter knife. My butter knives are curved, so that's not very helpful for me, so I like the chopstick. Go ahead and push that off. All right, and then you can see that it's really kind of lined up there. That's going to be exactly 1 tablespoon. So I can go ahead, dump one of those in. Let's do another one. Level it off nice and good. Excellent. Dump that in. All right. And now any of those flakes of sugar were on my paper towel. I can dump that back in, and we're done with that. Give it a quick stir. The butter, the warmth in the butter will actually melt that sugar a little bit. And what does sugar do in a muffin? Makes it nice and sweet, right? Like that's the really yummy part of a muffin. All right, so now that we have that in there, now we're gonna get to one of our magical ingredients. We got a couple magical ingredients in here. Baking soda. And we actually have a full-on activity if you're interested in learning more about baking soda and how it works. We go through a lot of that on our website at einsteinsworkshop.com/virtual learning. And you can do that. But I'll give you a little overview of what this does, which is that it's basically a type of base that you're going to add into it. And as it heats, it's going to bubble up, and it's going to create all these little air pockets inside the muffin. So it's going to bubble up that muffin. That's what takes it from being, just kind of a flat batter to this nice fluffy muffin, is all those little tiny bubbles that it's holding. And the baking soda is what creates that. So you can go ahead, and also the really cool thing about baking soda, most of them are like this. Yours might not be, but a lot of the baking soda containers have this little edge here. So you can actually go ahead and put your 1/4 of a teaspoon, so a really, really tiny amount, in there and use that edge right there to kind of slough off that extra. So instead of using a chopstick, you can use that edge, and it keeps everything right in the box. Super useful, right? And go ahead and dump that in there. All right. Give that a little stir. All right. And we're going to go to another really kind of magical ingredient that I love is vanilla extract. So you might have imitation vanilla extract, regular vanilla extract, but this is not going to be like vanilla candies or vanilla ice cream. So you can take that lid off right there and smell it. It smells so good. So the senses in your nose and your taste buds are all kind of interconnected. That's why when you're walking past a bakery and you smell fresh baked bread or donuts or whatever it is, and you're like, oh man, I really want to eat that, it's all connected. That's also on the other side why a lot of people don't like things like Limburger cheese, for example, which smells really kind of not so great, but tastes really good, but doesn't smell so. It's all interconnected. So you're smelling something bad, eating something that tastes good, gets a little muddled in there. But vanilla extract is going to take the flavors elsewhere in the batter and kind of bring those out and kind of bring that olfactory, that smell into there as well. All right, and again, we're just going to use a little tiny, tiny bit. And we're going to dump it right into that teaspoon. It's a 1/4 of a teaspoon, just a 1/4 of a teaspoon. And we're going to dump that in there. Now, I usually am very anti-licking anything as you're baking because you want to make sure you're keeping those germs out, right? But go ahead and give that a little bit of taste. Tastes really bad, right? So vanilla extract smells really good, but it tastes really bad. So don't go ahead and drinking that stuff. That's all about enhancing the other flavors in there, and it is a very important ingredient. All right, go ahead and stir that up. Now the next ingredient we're going to use is milk. And the reason why we didn't add the milk earlier is because we didn't want to add cold milk into our freshly heated butter and immediately, cool the butter off again. We wanted it to stay nice and melty. But now that we have kind of a batter going in here, now's a good time to add our milk. You can see that I'm using almond milk. You can use regular cow milk, oat milk, whatever kind of milk that you guys use in the house. And usually, I talked a little bit about this if you did the Play-Doh video earlier. Usually you don't use a dry measure for milk. You'd use something like this, which is a wet measuring cup. And the reason why is actually something called surface tension. So it's like when you see a raindrop just sitting on a surface, it actually kind of pools up. And the surface tension of that water is what keeps it from kind of petering out and flowing everywhere. It's what keeps that drop up. And that's actually what happens when you use a liquid in a dry measuring cup, is you are able to overpour too much milk in there. And you can actually see a little bit of surface tension can kind of come up. And it's basically the equivalent of what we were doing with the flour when you were taking, or the sugar, when you're taking off the excess sugar, We want to make sure that we're keeping it level. And the surface tension in the liquid actually makes it so that it's not level anymore. So that's why we use a liquid measuring cup. All of that said, we're making such a teeny tiny little muffin, I don't have a quarter of a cup liquid measuring cup. So we're going to go ahead and use a dry one. Just be super careful not to over pour. However, I'm going to use this liquid measuring cup to pour over, just in case I accidentally spill some. I know you don't cry over spilled milk, but still don't want to spill it. All right, quarter of a cup. Perfect, all right. Excellent, and you're gonna want to dry that out because we're actually gonna use this again in just a minute. So grab a towel, paper towel, let's dry that out real quick. All right. And that's it for the milk. Go ahead and give that a stir. Alright, now we have kind of a liquidy batter. So now we need what's really, really important here is the kind of the bulk of the whole muffin is the flour. Alright, and this is just like the sugar that we did earlier. Whoops, in that we want to use a paper towel to put that down to measure over, so that we're not accidentally getting flour all over the place like I usually do. All right, and for the flour, unlike the sugar, so with the sugar we just kind of scooped it up, right, and that's totally fine, but with flour it actually gets packed down when you do that. So if I were just to scoop it up like this, I'm actually packing flour down in there. Flour needs to be measured really, really fluffy. So you actually need to use a different utensil, so I got a spoon in here, and pick some up and put it into the measuring cup that way. All right, you do that. So first you're going to do a quarter of a cup. Go ahead and level that off. And pour that in there. And now we're actually going to need 2 tablespoons as well. All right. Let's go ahead. Do 1 tablespoon. And, too much. Level that off. Now we got 2 tablespoons. All right, excellent. And the tricky part, getting this flour, the paper towel, back in there. Excellent, so we're not wasting anything, right? Okay, now come back over here and go ahead and give it a stir. You'll notice that the batter only makes it up to maybe about halfway or so up your mug. And that's a good thing because remember, we got that baking soda in there. It's going to get all nice and fluffy, so we want room at the top for it to get all fluffy. And as you mix it, you'll notice that the flour is going to chunk up a little bit. That's okay. But we do want to try and get as many of those chunks out, so go ahead and give it a good stir. Alright, that's pretty good. So, now we got kind of this batter looking stuff. If you guys have made pancakes before, it looks kind of like that, right? It's a little bit liquidy in there. And that is perfect. So now we got to add our kind of fun ingredients. And I have a couple of examples of things you can do here, so it depends on what you like in your muffins, right? So I got some dried fruit, dried craisins here, some nuts, I have some almonds, some blueberries. These ones actually were frozen that I thawed out. You can put that in there. I got some chocolate chips, of course, and actually in the middle I have some cinnamon as well. Cinnamon's probably my favorite. It's usually in like a shaker container. Just shake a little in there. But I think this time I'm going to go for chocolate chip. So you don't want to add too many in there, because remember, it's just one muffin. So just a couple. And a couple more. Alright. Get that all mixed up. Beautiful. Alright, so I'm going to take our metal spoon out and go ahead and pop your mug right in the microwave. Make sure you have an adult helping you with this. And we're going to put it in there for 2 minutes. And actually, as you're doing this, you can also kind of watch it and you'll see the whole thing puff up. The heat that's heating up all of those molecules in there, it's causing those bubbles to form with that baking soda, and it's kind of all bubbling up. And it's going to make a nice fluffy muffin. All right, so once it's all done, it's going to be really, really hot. So get some help with this and grab it by the handle. All right, and there we go. You can see it's kind of all puffing up there at the top. It's way, way kind of, fluffier than it was just 2 minutes ago, right? So I would suggest that you do not eat it straight from the mug, and the reason why is because we just took all those microwaves and we just shot them right into our batter and we fluffed it up, and now there's all that heat trapped in there, and this is going to be really, really, really hot. So my suggestion and my favorite way is to grab yourself a plate, go ahead and turn it upside down. I'm going to kind of pull it away from the edges a little bit, get in there, all right, and dump it onto a plate, just like that, and then go ahead and cut it right in half. Really see all that steam coming up there. Really give it some room for all that steam to come out. And there you go. You have a delicious microwave mug cake. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys learned a little bit, and I hope you guys are enjoying a wonderful muffin right now. Go ahead and don't forget to check out our website, einsteinsworkshop.com/virtual learning, for a bunch of other free tutorials and worksheets and printables there as well. And we'll be coming out daily and doing some live sessions every day as well, and you can check out the schedule there. And don't forget to show us your wonderful mug cakes. Go ahead and on Instagram, on Facebook, tag us and show us. We'd love to see. We're missing our community right now. I know everybody's kind of shut in at home, unfortunately. So we're really missing our community, so we can't wait to hear from you guys. Thank you.